The notion of having people carry RFID tags on their person is enormously problematic for a number of reasons. Perhaps best illustrated by something we talked about in our book, Spy Chips. IBM has developed something it calls the Person Tracking Unit. Talk about a great name. They came up with it, they patented it, and that's what they called it. Now, their person tracking unit is a reader device, or a series, or actually an entire planet full of reader devices that would pick up the signals, or stimulate and pick up the signals based on RFID tags carried by people in order to identify them and track them. Now, IBM talks about placing these types of readers, which can go into doorways, they can go under floor tiles, they can go into ceiling tiles, shelving, walls, furniture, anywhere you go. They talk about using these to identify and track people in so many locations that it blows the mind. They talk about doing this in theaters, in sports arenas, in shopping malls, in theaters, in libraries, in elevators, and even public restrooms. So that literally everywhere you go into the public restroom, there could be a reader device behind the tile of the stall that would be monitoring and tracking you if, and here's the if they can find a way to get you to carry an RFID tag. So and IBM, by the way, which patented that, just won the contract to do the national ID cards for England. So they're very much involved in national ID cards. They're very much involved in RFID. They've been one of the key companies promoting this technology from its inception. And now you have IBM with its patented method of tracking and monitoring people's locations. Now, in doing our research for Spy Chips, my co-author, Liz McIntyre, and I reviewed about 30,000 different documents. We went through white papers, we went through schematics, technical documents, confidential documents, promotional documents, you name it. And what emerged from that huge sifting process of looking through all of the future plans that the major corporations and governments of the world have for RFID is they very much intend a world in which your every move is tracked. Now, their big frustration, and one of the things we found over and over, was sort of a hand-wringing of how do we get people to carry these devices. So at this point in time, here in the United States, Janet Napolitano, who is our new Director of Homeland Security, has specifically said that she is considering scrapping the unpopular Real ID program and replacing it with a national enhanced driver's license. Well, that's a fancy way of saying a spy chip driver's license with the RFID tag on it. And that would make the person tracking unit of IBM, that would make plans by Accenture, plans by Philips Electronics, plans by a whole host of companies, Intel, I mean the list goes on, to track and monitor people. That would make it possible, because if you tuck one of those things into your wallet or your back pocket, you then become trackable by this entire infrastructure of RFID surveillance. Well, that's the argument, of course, that Homeland Security and the Departments of Motor Vehicles are making about these enhanced driver's licenses. But the reality is that once they have that unique ID number and it's associated with you, it becomes your number essentially for life. So these RFID tags are poised to become the Social Security numbers of the 21st century, where every place you go, if I can pick up that number, then I can identify you. So probably the best way to understand it is to think about Facebook. Most people, if not, many people, if not most people on the internet today have a Facebook account. And on that Facebook page, there's a whole host of information. You've got photographs, you've got a list of your friends, you've got information about what you do and where you've been and what you've done, anything that you post on there. Well, all your Facebook account is a single DNS number. When you punch in the URL, it translates back to a number and pulls up that information. Well, what the RFID industry envisions in this Internet of Things is every physical object on Earth, including every person, to have their own equivalent of a Facebook page. And when I punch in your unique ID number off of your enhanced driver's license, then what I would wind up getting is an entire page of information about you. When I punch in the number from your shoe, I get information. Where's it been seen? Was it seen walking through the doorway of the Atlanta courthouse, and then it was seen walking through the doorway of the local mall, and then it was seen walking through the doorway of perhaps a protest rally of some sort. So all of that information would be logged into a database entry, and that's why they refer to this Internet of Things, where literally every physical object will have this entire record. So in the case of a pair of shoes, it might say where it was made, what sort of labor went into it, what materials it was made out of, what shipping facility it was sent to, which crate it came over on from China, what store it was sold at. But where it really gets disturbing is then it goes on. Who bought it? What credit card number was used? What date was it purchased? Where else has it been seen? And so you can see over time these unique ID numbers actually become associated with some pretty intimate information. Well, I think the real risk is not only identity theft, but stalking and domestic violence. The National Network to End Domestic Violence is one of the most outspoken critics of this technology in the country. They've submitted testimony to legislators around the country against RFID because what it makes possible is a network where someone could be tracked. So because your enhanced driver's license, and of course you'll never get one, Stephen, so I'm saying this hypothetically, but because an enhanced driver's license contains a unique ID number and no other data, there is a claim by the government and the folks issuing these things, Department of Homeland Security and the states, that there's nothing whatsoever to worry about. Well, the reality is there's a reason why we don't have our Social Security numbers printed across the front of our shirts, because Social Security numbers at this point are keys to unlock vast databases of information. So if I know your Social Security number, I can go in and I can get your credit history, I can pull up information about your mortgage, I can pull up information about possibly your medical records, a whole variety of things. And what is going to happen if this continues to move forward the way it's going is that your national ID card, your enhanced driver's license real ID card, is going to have a number on it, and that will be your national ID number. It will be the Social Security number of the coming century. And having that information will not only unlock a vast database of information about you that will be linked up with every activity you engage in, but and as well as every place you go, because they're going to be recording that also. But in addition to that, it will enable anyone who can get a hold of that information to track you from that point forward. In other words, sitting next to you right now, we're about, probably 5-6 feet away. If I had an RFID reader, first of all, you wouldn't know it. It would be relatively small. I could put it in my purse. And I could be aiming that at you right now. I would get back a unique string of numbers that would follow a particular pattern, so I would know it was your enhanced driver's license number. And from that point forward, anytime I want to identify Stephen Vasquez, all I have to do is use that number. So that becomes sort of a data cloud that follows you everywhere you go. Reader devices that pick up that number will certainly know that you just passed by. And I can create my own database of information about you. I can enter in that you're running Campaign for Liberty here in the state of New York. I can put in information about places that I know that you've been in the past, people that I know that you know. And at that point, anyone who picks up your number can log on, and this is where this really gets interesting, log on to the Internet of Things and look you up. Well, that's one of the real problems with the enhanced driver's license is of all of the RFID standards that they could have chosen, the Department of Homeland Security chose the least secure, longest range RFID chip on the market. So this is or at least the least secure, longest range standard RFID chip available, something called a Gen 2 for Generation 2 or second generation RFID tag. These are the ones that were developed for use in warehouses like Walmart, where your goal is maximum tracing and trackability of products. Now, there are other forms of RFID they could have chosen that are encrypted, that have a shorter read range, but they chose the one that can be read from 30 feet away by not just government readers, by any RFID reader. You can go into a back room at a Walmart distribution center, and there are minimum wage employees carrying around the reader devices that you could then turn around and aim at a person walking down the street and read their RFID tag driver's license, read their enhanced driver's license. There's literally no encryption, there's no protection, there's no data scrambling, there's nothing. You can read the number in the clear. So it is just mind-boggling that the Department of Homeland Security would choose that particular standard for RFID. The only possible explanation is they wanted maximum traceability and trackability of these tags. So the short answer to your question, there is no security whatsoever, and this is going to leave us open to widespread abuse and tracking, not just by criminals and hackers, but also by corporations that would love to get access to these databases and trace and track people around.